So in our last session we have seen the events in detail, and in this session we'll see how to perform event emit example in AngularJS. So friends, you have seen that we have used this concept $emit. Now we will check how to perform $broadcast. So let's change some codes. Let's change the title, broadcast, save it. And what do we need to change? That let's make another function, say my broadcast. Okay, hello, I am broadcasted. Let's change that function name my emit to my broadcast and $emit to broadcast. And let's also change this comment, broadcast the event, and change the function event which we have written, that is send up. Now in broadcast what we do, it follows top to bottom approach, so let's write it send down. So we have changed the event name send down, and inside on we will write use this event name send down. So all is fine. So this much of change is only needed for performing broadcast. So in this case what will happen, at first when user is in controller CNTRL child, and when user will click on this button, that is my broadcast, function will be called and a string will be passed to that function, that is hello, I am broadcasted. So it will call that function which is written inside CNTRL child. So it will go to this controller, it will find that function, and inside that function it will raise that event through scope.broadcast. I have written that event name as send down, and the value which is coming from the function I am setting that in this variable, and then I have handled this event inside my another controller similar to $emit which we have done earlier. So you can see that inside the top controller I have handled this event send down. Inside the controller CNTR I also handled this event send down, and I have written this message something like this inside send up. So let's change it to send down, handler of controller CNTR and now data. Okay, so let's run this. So you can see this is an example of broadcast and all fields are empty initially. Let's click this button. So nothing happens. Why nothing happens? Because this is the broadcast function is called inside the child controller. So inside this controller it is called. So this is the child controller of this controller. Okay, so what happens when I click on this control, this child controller, it start looking for the event which is handled inside its immediate child controller. So right now it has no immediate child controller because it traverses in top to bottom approach. So in top to bottom while it is traveling, so here is no controller to handle that event, so it stops there only. So what happens that inside this controller, if there would have been any controller, then it must have been working. So since there is no controller inside this CNTRL child, so it stops there only and it doesn't look for the $on. So let's move this thing inside the controller CNTRL and let's check what happens then. So let's cut it and paste it over here. At the same time cut this message also. So this function is written in controller CNTRL child. So let's remove this function and write this function inside the CNTRL, as I am calling this function inside the CNTRL controller. So let's cut it and paste it over here and cut this handler and paste it over here. So now it's done. So let's check what's going to happen when I do these changes in my code. So in this case, what will happen when user will click on this button, my broadcast function will be called. It will go to this controller CNTRL and it will register an event that is sent down, and now it will broadcast that event, and this event will be handled by another controllers, that is top controller and CNTRL child controller. And here I will assign this message inside my message variable, and now inside this controller I will use that message variable and check whether it is coming or not. So let's run this. So clicking on this variable, see, you can check that it is working, as it has its child controller now. So when I'm broadcasting this event, it is going from top to bottom approach, and it will not display this message in this controller as it is upside. If it would have been inside of this controller, then that message would also come for that controller. So this is all about broadcasting a message. So let's do it in another level, that is through root scope. So when I'm doing root scope, I need to inject that, as I have told you in my $Emit session. So let's use that, simply writing $root. So let's copy this inside another controllers as well, and now using this root scope to broadcast this message and $on to receive that. So here it is done, only this much changes. So now when I will click on this button, this broadcast function will call and the handler will go in every controller and the message will be shown in every div. Let's run it. Click me. So you can see that it is coming inside the child controller and inside the controller which is isolated. So this is the benefit of root scope, that you do not need to bother about in which direction the flow is going on. So you just inject that root scope in your controller and use that event which you have raised for a particular function in a particular controller. So friends, in this way we have seen that how custom events are working for AngularJS, and how $Emit, $on and $broadcast are related to each other, and how to work on them, and how $root scope is beneficial for us to write our program more easily. So it's all about custom Angular custom events. And in order to saying you about predefined event, that is very simple, which we have used already, that is ngClick. It's a predefined event similar to ngBlur, ngFocus, that we will use in our upcoming sessions. And I will in my next session I will be showing you about Angular routing, how it is happening, and that is also a part of an event which is handled by AngularJS itself. So in next session we will check about the Angular routing concept and we'll work on that, and hope you like this session. Thank you. So we have seen that how to perform event emit example in AngularJS. In next session we will see an example of broadcast.